Alright, today I'm going to do a quick rundown of the basic build-up of a do-it-yourself type of quad drone. And right here, got the main body of the frame already partially assembled. I also printed out these prop guards, and I got the motors all in there, and I also got these little gold connectors soldered onto the end of the motor cables. Got that all hooked up so far, and then we have the bottom plate. This is where we're going to be mounting all of these little motor drivers. And then I've also got the flight controller here, printed out a little case for it. It's a OpenPilot CC3D open source flight controller. Got the transmitter here. It's a 8XR open source transmitter. Goes to a Tyrannus. And then of course you're going to need a battery at some point. I got a LiPo here. You're going to need a soldering gun, some solder, obviously, as well as these are the little gold connectors that I've been using. Pretty high quality. It's good to have a nice gold connector. See a solid connection. This is the power distribution board. It's a Hovership one. I think it was about $2 online. Came with some cables and stuff. Pretty good price. And then I've got the hardware, a bunch of M3 nuts. This is the top plate here. It's got these little cushion things, so it's got some flexibility in it. This is all carbon fiber, but they do have plenty of frames and bodies you can print out. You have a 3D printer on various websites, and then of course you're going to need a bunch to distribute it to all the other systems that you're going to be running on here. These are little motor controllers. They don't always have this heat shrink on them. I would put it on there if it doesn't. It's going to help with waterproof, make it a little bit more waterproof, or at least water resistant. And you're going to attach these here. There's a couple different places you can mount these. I prefer to mount them, tuck them up underneath this on the very bottom plate, so that when you bring the main body in here, everything's tucked under there nicely. And then you're going to put the top on, and you want to be able to have plenty of room for all of the stuff in between. So if your motors and stuff are underneath, that's going to give you a lot more of an area to work with. Whether you want to put a camera in there, GPS, maybe UHF stuff at some point. That's going to leave your body open. I have seen people put the power supply right here in the middle, or the power distribution here in the middle. But it turns out that my CC3D mounts in there just right, so that's where I'm going to end up putting that, with some bolts and some rubber washers as a vibration dampening. And one thing I wanted to show you was how easy it was to solder these little gold pins on here. Another reason to get the gold ones, just better quality. So you got the little cable here. If you can kind of see, I'm just going to push it so it just kind of pokes out of the top of that, and then it kind of stays in there without me having to mess with it. All these little handy things. These things are really good for soldering, especially. Hold stuff just right. A little bit. Alright. And let's see, we're going to get this a little warmed up. that is it. The gold takes really nicely.
Alright, so for this one I'm going to go over the basic connections that you're going to want to make on your drivers, your motor drivers for your drone. So you have the power management board, or the power distribution board, which is in there. You can see these two big red and black wires coming out of it. So that is basically where you're going to solder all of these red and black wires coming off of the motor driver boards. And it's not too hard. One thing to keep in mind when you're zip tying the boards to the actual frame piece, kind of keep them loose at first, so that way you can move them around a little bit so it's easier to solder this stuff in. So you are starting to get into some tighter spaces here. So first thing I'm going to do is just kind of get everything up. I've already got all my terminals with a little bit of solder on them. They actually came that way, so that was nice. It might be enough that I don't even have to actually apply solder, but I always like to make sure it's got a really good connection. So I'm just going to do 2 of them at once, one for each side here. Get everything out all at once. And even if I can just tack it on there at first, that'll let me come back in a second and apply some heavier amounts of solder. I know it's kind of hard to see here, but yeah, so just kind of get a nice little. Alright, so here I have my drone. I put my transmitter here inside of a case I printed that holds up the antennas up in the air and stuff. And then I mounted this plate on the bottom that had the ESCs, motor controllers, and all I have left to do now is plug in all these gold pins that I have, and I also need to finish wiring up my CC3D. So I have it mounted inside the case and everything, and I hooked it up into the transmitter there. You can see the cables going in, and the order there was the red, black, red, and white one first, and then blue, and then yellow, and then green, and then red, and then black or purple. And the rest of the wires I just zip tied off to the side. And then you're gonna do your ESCs with your front right motor first, and then your front left motor, your front right motor, your back left, and then your back right. And you wire those into the 1, 2, 3, and 4 slots. So, and double check everything I'm saying, of course. CC3D has a great tutorial to go through. I'm just doing a real quick basic rundown. So when you plug in your motors or your ESC controllers into your CC3D, it's important to note that in their instructions it says to only connect the positive and negative power wires into the number 1 port, and then in the rest of the ports you just take like an X-Acto knife or a flathead screwdriver and pull out the positive and negative from the connector and put only the yellow or white wired signal wire. Basically, it's going to be different for each one. And then once you get everything all hooked up and stuff, you're going to want to take your USB card and calibrate your naze or flip or CC3D, whatever it happens to be that you're running, and then you can get it all programmed and ready to go. So that's the basics of putting together your own drone. It's pretty easy. I went over the power controller and everything, and I still need to wire up my connector there so I'm able to hook my battery into it that I'm going to fasten in with some Velcro zip tie thingies. Thanks for watching.